the
Chairman.
Thank you. As it has been mentioned, the Korean conflict, as they call it, was the forgotten war. I myself is a veteran of the Vietnam War, and I don't have to remind anybody what that was like. But for the Korean War veterans to come home and be forgotten and to be pushed aside. And here it is 60 years later, the government that so many Americans gave their lives for. The Korean War was the bloodiest war that America ever fought. In the 3 years, they lost over 54,000 men. That's America. That's not counting the Koreans and the Chinese and all that died. But it gives me a great honor to stand here and present these books. I wish there were more Korean War veterans here because they deserve every recognition that they receive. And on the Republic of Korea, South Korea, to do this, to honor our veterans, is such a great honor for each person that receives one of these books. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
We're going to put the county chairman to work now, and he's going to make the next presentation. The commander of American Legion Post 167, Mike Braswell, he's here today with a Korean War veteran. Would you?
That was mine right here. One of Batson.
Okay. You want to come up and get his book? Come on up, and the chairman will make the presentation.
He got his book.
Oh, he's got his book. Okay, I'm sorry. He's got his book.
That's all right, that's all right.
I just wanted to also mention, give a special thanks to Mike Taylor, who put this whole thing together for us. A phone call to Mike Taylor, and this is what evolved out of that. So thank you, Mike. And I think we have two Pender County veterans officers here today as well, Roy Horn and Warren Hall. And every one of these organizations, the Legion Posts as well as the veterans officers, we're going to leave a couple of books at the library as well. So there'll be a few outlets where these veterans or their families can get the books. Okay? Thank you, gentlemen.
Not used to being at this mic, but gentlemen, on behalf of all of us in Pender County, for what you have done and what you're continuing to do, getting the word out, support folks, spread the message. Yeah, that's an important part as well. My father was in Korea, but it was in the 60s, and because of the folks that are here today that were there when it was a much, much unkind place, he came home, and he wasn't in near. You know, whenever you're abroad as a military person representing our country, there's always a risk, but he was there at a much calmer time because you guys were there before him. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Chair, if I can say something,
Yes, sir,
I
please
know
do.
the gentleman, he was mentioning about how they can receive the books. If he can mention that again, or how the books can, how can we get one of the books, or how can the
I'm here in Pender County, and I will make my number available for any Korean War veterans or their families, or anybody that's been to Korea or served during that time, or their family members if they're deceased veteran. I'll make myself available or my information available that they can contact me, and I'll have the books on hand to distribute to those people that deserve the books,
Okay.
the Korean War veterans or their families. So that's going to be available. I'll make that information available to you all. Okay?
And in addition, we have a nice system in Pender County that our two veterans officers have over 200 copies of the books in their offices. Also, the Hampstead Post has distributed already. Mr. Braswell, how many copies have you distributed?
I've distributed 12 dozen, 12 boxes. There's 20 books in a box. And I still have more, and I'm making an attempt to get some more, because we've got to go all over the other side of Raleigh to pick them up. They're not being delivered. I've already gotten a car load full of them, and already given them out, and I'm fixing to get some more from somebody else. We're working on getting as many as we possibly can, but of course, the well eventually run dry, so you get them. If you want them, you have to get them while they're available.
And any veteran can also visit either library, and we'll make sure they get a copy.
And if they can't contact me, they can contact Mr. Taylor, and he'll contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mike. Next on the agenda, we have Mr. Jim Corin, Charter Communications Director of Government Relations. Update on new developments with digital cable required, equipment, and other information. And we had not met before today, but we have spoken and corresponded on plenty of time, sir. So you've always been responsive, and I appreciate that, because we get some interesting calls sometimes.
You're very welcome, sir. I appreciate that. And first thing I want to do is to thank the Pender County Board of Commissioners for allowing me a few minutes. I am grateful for that. I want to pass out something very, very quickly, and I'll do that right now. My apologies for not doing that prior to the start of the meeting. You may think this is my first visit to Pender County, but actually I'm happy to tell you it's good to be back. I was here probably less than 30 days ago with Dr. Duvall, county staff, NC, the folks from NC Broadband, and this was, and you gentlemen and ladies know about this. This was the kickoff meeting for a initiative, a grand initiative, and one I applaud, to increase broadband build out in Pender County. Charter is reviewing the data that was provided. Very good data. We are trying to determine how we can be a part of it, and we got your subsequent email on that and look forward to continuing to participate. So what you have, I want to start with the information that's in the package. I will be deliberately brief so I can leave time for questions. On the left side of this, gentlemen and ladies, you have a little thumbnail on Charter, the organization, from the top down. We're a Fortune 500 company. We have about 6 million customers in 29 states. We have about 22,000 employees in 41 states. I'm going to assume that some of our employees live in and work in Pender County. I want to talk to you about the digital transition that we've, an inelegant phrase, we flipped the switch. We called it a cutover. We cut over from an analog platform to a digital platform back on February the 18th. So we are at plus 64 or day 64 of what I consider and what the company considers to be a phenomenal and appropriate change in the architecture and the infrastructure that we bring not only to Pender County, but the 7-state southern region, and in summation to the 29 states that we do business in. Very, very simply put, analog, slow, digital, fast, digital, reliable. Reliability goes through the roof. Clarity is enhanced greatly. A couple of the key data points, and again, I know you probably know this, but when we moved to an all-digital platform in Pender County, we added about 70 new high-definition channels. And when we poll our customers, whether it's from this county or from North Carolina or the other 28 states, and we ask them, what do you want? What enhanced products or services do you want? They say two things to us. They say, we want more high-definition channels, and we want more video-on-demand channels. And those are the super powerful, exciting products that our customers want. We think we've accomplished meeting their feedback to us by taking this plan to all digital. In Pender County, we now have upwards of 200 high-definition channels on the channel lineup. I don't know about your viewing habits or whether you're a Charter customer. I only now will look at the HD channels. The remarkable difference between an analog picture and a digital picture is pretty compelling, especially when there's motion, football, basketball, sporting event, action types of things. Additionally, Charter now provides to our customers in Pender County over 10,000 video-on-demand titles. So if you like movies, if you like special event programming, documentaries, those type of offerings, you're going to need a lot of popcorn.
That's you on demand, correct?
Pardon me?
Is that you on demand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
It is.
I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. Good question. We're at 64 days out. I would be happy to my apologies. I did want to mention one thing, and I think this is extremely important that the board know this, and that those in the audience know this. Now in Pender County, because we've cut over to digital, and we have the most enhanced digital products that Charter can provide, that the industry can provide, we also offer an extremely robust internet product. It's fast. I hope you've tried it. And we have a very features-rich Charter phone service. We now, in this county, have what we have branded as Charter Spectrum. Charter Spectrum is it's a branding title, but what it represents, and the takeaway I believe is you can't find a better suite of services from Charter Communications in the country. I live in Greenville, South Carolina. I have what you have. You have what I have. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm pretty excited for our customers here in the county. I would be delighted to take questions if anybody has them.
What percentage, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
No, go ahead.
What percentage in Pender County is service that y'all not in the map in certain communities?
I can tell you that our penetration against our current passings is less than 50%. You're asking, I think, sir, a different question. You may be asking me,
In certain areas that's not in y'all map and lining or service, what percentage of those who are not able to get that service Charter cable from you all? Because that's what I'm hearing a lot of the customers around, I shouldn't say customers around because they're not a customers, but citizens around, they say, well, we can't get cable because we're not in their mapping service. I'm now just question, or my question would be, what percentage of those,
answer to your question, sir, is 100%.
so they can get it?
If they're not passed by a charter, if they're not passed by charter infrastructure, either in the air or in the ground, they can't get it
receive it.
today. That doesn't mean they can't get it tomorrow. And let me respond to your question also by saying, we're in the business of growing customers. And if you believe there are some addresses that we need to know about, and what we do, and I'm glad you raised this. When we get an address from a franchise partner, from a Pender County franchise partner, from a City of Greenville franchise partner, what we do is the following. We take that address or addresses, and we go to the field to that neighborhood, if you will, or street
Yeah.
or streets, and we determine what it's going to take to build our infrastructure to that location. Sometimes that passes a financial model, and it becomes feasible for us to build it. Sometimes it simply does not meet a payback, and it is not a good business decision to build it. But we always look at all times.
I'd like to add on to that, because there's been multiple occasions where I've had people call me, they bought a house, you know, so maybe, and in particular somewhere in the Hampstead area, where it's, looks more metropolitan than, say, a lot of other areas of the county. And they just automatically assume everything is there. And there's been many times I've gone to Mr. Corin, and every time they've looked at it and come back and said, either yes, they can, or they cannot, or they build a few more houses, they can, or the builder commits to closing out a subdivision within X amount of time. So you've always gotten back to me. And a lot of times you have gone back and relooked at neighborhoods when the houses have been built. You know, say a phase one, they come up and they lay the infrastructure. Somebody's got to pay to put the infrastructure down. And then they go back and they add a phase two, and you guys come back in, and the numbers justify doing that, if the builder doesn't do it up front. 'Cause, I mean, so,
That's right. There have been occasions, as Mr. Williams mentions, where a development is in phase one, and it just, it's about $30,000 a mile to build plant. So we may not be able to make it work in phase one, but as there's fill-in and there's phase two and there's move-in, we circle back and we try again.
Let me ask this. When Mr. Ward was asking you the question and you started answering him, you were talking about 100%. What were you referring to at 100%?
He asked me what percentage of customers that, as I heard the question, what percentage of customers that are not passed by charter plant can receive charter cable? And the answer is none.
So everybody can receive.
If
If you have if the.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I understand that part.
Right.
So nobody's not neglected, you know.
Oh, no.
They can get it as long as that.
If it's passed by, if it's passed by charter infrastructure, we're delighted to have them be a customer. They choose sometimes not to be. I'm not saying, there are some we face fierce competition from Dish. Dish has been competing in.
You know
against-
why is that, right?
Pardon?
You know why is that, right?
Price basis.
Are you the one that work on the prices?
Pardon me?
Are you the one that work on the prices?
I can- I think we offer a great product for the price.
That was a political answer. I'm sorry, that's what I would say.
that was a good answer.
I'd like to ask,
No, I really do. And it's not just, I'll also mention this, and we're in North Carolina, so I know you know there's a state cable law in North Carolina. The state cable law was drafted and passed to ensure that AT&T had quick access to the same markets that we have access to. AT&T now has franchises in most, if not all, of the communities that we service in North Carolina. Whether they have built in those communities is a different story. I don't have a count, but they have the franchise, which means they have the wherewithal to do that if they choose to expend the capital funds to do it. In Greenville, in the community that I live in, our basic penetration hovers in the high 40s. The reason for that is because of Dish. Dish has been a competitor of wireline cable operators for 25 years now.
they don't have near the investment as the cable company.
I mean, they don't have to lay all the cable line like the dish networks.
No, sir, they don't. And they don't pay franchise fees either.
It's amazing, you know, in a way, it doesn't seem fair, does it? The way they can operate like that. I want to ask a question too. I meant
Sure.
to ask this before. This side of the county is served by Time Warner, and the other side is cable, Charter. So when was that decided? I was wondering, when was that decided? Does anybody know?
I can answer a little bit of that is neither franchise is exclusive. If Time Warner wants to go over there and compete, they're welcome to.
There's some people that have that.
If, you know, if people come,
Well, certain
I've gotten
areas-
calls over the years and say, they raised my bill $2, how can y'all allow, you know, why don't you let somebody else come in here? And I go, somebody else is welcome to. We're not, Pender County's franchise, to the best of my knowledge, is not exclusive.
No, of course not.
It-
No, it's certainly not, Mr. Williams, and in fact, not only could Time Warner hypothetically overbuild Charter, AT&T could as well.
So I guess it's evolved over the time. They
It's-
were in
it's-
that area already.
It's kind of like,
Charter.
the first one to 100 wins, or first one in wins, first one in the ground kind of.
We have the
wins
money
an
to
area.
put it out there.
And at the time, I think when, you know, the first cable over on the east side was something that ultimately led to Charter, but was started by the guy who, the folks that ran Old Point. And there
Three or
was that one big dish on Country Club Road.
Probably three or four companies back.
Yeah. And they were the first ones to bring it, and everybody was like, I can't wait to get it. Because we had 3 channels on a good night when I was growing
Yeah,
up. So.
yeah.
And then
Now,
there's
do you
the,
offer,
Sorry.
any satellite, or is all yours cable?
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not certain I understand the question.
Maybe I'm a little confused about with the questions about Dish, comparing Dish to you or whatever, but Dish is a satellite provider, correct? You are not a satellite provider, are you?
No,
Or
sir,
you
we are
cable?
not.
Okay, you're just cable.
We are just cable.
Okay. Well, that might be one reason why Dish has maybe a different customer base than you do, is because you all are not out in these rural areas yet where folks have to get satellite service.
I think
It's the only
you're-
way that they can get.
I think you're accurate.
I will tell you before we wrap this up, for what it's worth, I remember, I kind of thought it was humorous years ago when they said that the cable company was going to get in the phone business. I didn't, but I've got my internet and my phone with you guys. So
Cluster.
I was a doubter. I was a doubter back then, so I guess I'll admit when I was proven wrong.
And that's probably one of a number of reasons that AT&T decided it was a good idea to get into the video business,
They decided to get into what now?
into the cable business, the video business. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
We have Matt Livingston, Town of Wallace Manager, update on Henderson Field Airport, which some of you know, some of you may or may not know, the Wallace Airport in Pender County, or a lot of it anyway. So some folks don't always catch that part of it. So we're partners in this piece of real estate and the overall operation of it. Mr. Livingston.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board, Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney. Always nice to be here. Thank you, Glenda. Today, I'm just going to give you a brief overview and update. We did this every year for the past couple years of what's going on in our airport. And we have Jason Dixon here from our consultant, Jason Kennedy from WK Dixon. Sorry, I was thinking about one of our employees. But in any event, we've been working hard at the airport. What you see here in this opening slide is the new apron expansion. So we're able to house more airplanes, and that was a project we finished about 6 months ago, and it's working very well for us, keeping more airplanes there, helping us sell more fuel. Next slide, please. Okay, thanks. This is the current airport property. As you well know, where it is and everything else, it's just a quick overview of where it is. The yellow inside there is all in the town limits. All the rest of it is obviously in Pender County. We are filled up with all the tie-down spots. I think we have maybe a couple left over from our expansion, so that was real good. Some of the airplanes from Wilmington have come up. So we're good to see, that's good to go. People are coming in, we're selling more fuel. We're buying land, and that's been going very well. We've had land acquisitions in Phase 3 and 4. We've started Phase 4. That's interesting. Well, we started Phase 3 and 4, and let me go back here. And Phase 4 is winter, and we've been doing the obstruction removal, several trees, and that's pretty much finished. And the biggest thing we're working on now is the relocation design and permitting for the road relocation. And Jason has been working with a lot of the environmental companies. I've gone up there in meetings with the state. And so that's well underway, and that's going very well. But that's a fairly lengthy process, as I'm sure you're familiar with. And this kind of shows some of that, the lengthiness of that process. Environmental permitting is expected to take a year. Right now, we've started the DOT review design for the roadway relocation. We've gotten verbal approval from DOA, which is Division of Aviation, for funding of that roadway realignment. So that's very good news. We've met with your planning director, Kyle Brewer, about getting that approved as a right-of-way exemption, which it falls under North Carolina general statutes. So you see, the roadway relocation is a multi-year project and really won't be starting construction until April 2016. But what I really wanted to talk to you today about was, that the process is starting. We're going through the permitting process, and so it's actively working its way through the various departments. So what is this going to cost? These are obviously estimates. And I want to focus on not the big, huge number, but this is just the number for just the roadway. For this year, we're just talking about design. Obviously, in a couple years when we start getting into construction, we're talking about almost $1 million project. And part of that's going to be what I'd like is Wallace and Pender County's contribution as the 5% match for the cost. The rest of it's grant funded through DOA. And so, and like I say, we're working on that. And this slide here talks about the land acquisition, what we're talking to people now right here. This is what we need to purchase, these green shaded areas. We purchased the ones in yellow along through here and through here. So this is where we're talking with folks as we go through the permitting process and acquiring this property. And
Can
stop
I-
me if you have any questions. I mean, I know.
Yeah, can I ask the purpose of that green area? If it's away from the,
That's correct. See, and we'll get to that, but the runway, probably the next slide, will go out to here. And obviously, you can't have, when your planes are flying in, you need to have a free obstruction area. So we need to have the road away from that area, which is basically, Jason, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'll just say, I think maybe the next slide shows a little better you'll see the kind of the shape of the geometry of those shaded areas. It lines up with the proposed roadway relocation. So I think there's another picture coming up that shows that a little more clearly.
And I won't harp on these, but these are basically the goals and objectives really quick. Roadway relocation construction, 850 runway extension. Our ultimate goal is to get to 5,500 feet. That's going to allow us to bring in jets and a lot of those corporate aircrafts. T-hangars and taxi lane units, 10 units, that's even further down the road. The next big construction project is obviously going to be the roadway relocation so we can do the extension of the runway. And here is kind of the bigger picture of the total cost when we talk about a lot of those goals. Obviously, that if we're going back, that those T-hangars are several years, probably 6 years or more down the road. But the roadway relocation is the one we're looking at starting as the next big project, and that's those are the numbers there. But what we're talking about this year again is just the engineering and design cost of that. Here's an example of that, Mr. Ward. This shows more about what why that's needed. So it can bring, because this in red here is the actual extension area. And that's why we'd need that area to move it away from, obviously this road is right there. So we got to move the road out of the way to be able to extend the runway. And that's what we need, those clear zones. in order to bring, planes in there to land, and so forth. So that is the ultimate layout plan of the 5,500 feet.
Matt, can I, or
Yes, sir.
and I'm stealing a slide or two away. There's several reasons to do this. The grants are out there because the government would like to see more airports expanding these runways and services at the smaller airports to get the traffic out of the busier airports into more controlled airspace. And then there's a motivation for the ease of the private sector to be able to go in and out of these things. Can you kind of touch on that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be glad to. The biggest reason for this is economic development. You can make yourself more of a national, international destination when you can get corporate jets in and out, not just to ease the flow and get some of the traffic out of the Wilmington area, but if you look at places like, I just flew in out of New Bern not too long ago, and that was a express jet. U.S. Airways are flying express jets out of there. Now, we might not be there, ever, but conceivably in 30 years or so, this could be an area where you could have a little, I like to call them jumper planes or express jets, flying off from here to go to Charlotte or Raleigh or Atlanta to get on a bigger jet to fly out. And so that's one reason, but the biggest reason, the most probable situation for us is economic development. When you start talking about being able to have your own corporate jets here, that's one thing companies look for, and it's a selling point for us when we show our shell building and other things, say, look, we've got an airport here, and we've got folks that are in and around Wallace that would love to have their airplanes here, but for insurance regulations, they need at least 5,000 or 5,500 linear feet of runway to be able to house their airport there, their airplanes there, or their jets there, so they can take in and go wherever they need to go to conduct their business. So that's the biggest reason. It makes us more of a destination. One day you could have a little area there like some places do, of where they rent cars and people fly in, they get their cars and they go to various places in Pender County and Duplin County and places in the region.
I didn't, speaking on that, and I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're fine.
I didn't know that Ellis Airport was growing like it is down in Jacksonville. They moving and with the military and everything else and people flying out. So I was surprised that they're in that direction, like traveling back and forth and making that connection flight.
I think it's very good for economic development of Pender County. This airport is going to be another factor. This county is going to do a lot of growth in the next 10 years, and I believe with I-40 and when you're Wilmington and this airport here too, and all this is going to add up to a lot of progress for Pender County and getting economic development here.
Well, we obviously feel the same way, and that's why we're aggressively working with our consultant in the Division of Aviation to try to get this project moving in a forward direction. And anytime you can get so much money leveraged from another source, in this case Division of Aviation and federal funds at 90%, and your share being 10%, and in this case us splitting the cost at 5%, it's a win-win situation in my view, just about any way you look at it. I do believe the towns and the counties that position themselves for economic development are those ones that have those transportation infrastructure in place, whether that be highways, airports, or railways. Those are the ones that are going to be the winners in the future. And that's why we want to make this a first-class airport. Not that it's, it's a nice little general aviation airport. It's getting more and more recognition every day, but we want to make it into a business-class airport where people are regularly flying their jets in and out to do business.
It's located also, if you get the mile threshold, then you can, a lot of planes might stop just to refuel there as well.
That's very true, Chairman Williams. That's a great stopping point, as Bill Cook, our FBO, will tell you. He gets planes that come in that are flying from New York, and they love to stop in the airport and then go on to Florida. So it's about a good halfway point from a lot of those snowbirds that are coming from the north in the wintertime and going down towards Florida. So it's good for that, too. And it's also an area where a lot of times for fire purposes, we have the planes that fly in there, get their fuel, and then they dump their retardant out on the fires that we've had in the past few years in the area.
A lot of people don't realize that started off as a drive-in theater A long time ago, that was a drive-in theater where that airport is.
And who knows, maybe we can also still kind of put one out there someplace further away, you know. There's land out there, so. Do you have any other questions for me?
Mr. Chairman, I have one, please. Matt, how much dollars have we been able to secure, and I know you alluded to the overall percentages in federal dollars?
I'm going to say, you know, Jason, do you know? I know just this last project, the apron expansion was close to $500,000. And before that, we had some fence projects and some land acquisitions. So just in the 3 years that I've been working on it, it's been close to $800,000 to $1 million in leverage funds. Is that about right? I mean,
Yeah, I think the past projects over the last 3 to 5 years probably represent about close to $1 million in state funds. So those are funds that the Division of Aviation sees potential and sees value in this airport. So then they decide they have a set amount of funds that they divvy up throughout the state. And they've, over the last 3 to 4 years, have provided about $1 million for projects. The roadway project, the next one coming up, I think the estimate on that is around $2.5 to $3 million. And we, like Matt said, we've received a verbal indication that they will support that, and the award letter for that is pending. So.
I want to thank go ahead, I'm sorry, Commissioner. You go ahead, Commissioner McCoy.
I'm just gonna start to say, they've changed the funding a lot on the, like DOT, a lot of the way they're doing their funding, so that's gonna be a transition time in that, I'm sure, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. And the town and the airport and airports all over the state have gone through that in the past year, to where we're going to the new strategic transportation investment process, to where all transportation, you all know about it, all transportation projects get scored through a big system, and it is a transition, and we'll see now that first pass of the scoring is underway now. I think in the next month or two you'll start to see scores come out. You know, and I said this at a town council meeting not long ago. The town of Wallace and the county, Pender County, has done very well, just as far as being present and involved in that transition process. I've seen Kyle a lot at RPO meetings and district engineer meetings with DOT, and you all have a great base of support for this airport. So that goes a long way, just in showing the community support element of the new scoring process. So it is a transition, and we'll see how that starts to pan out in the next 6 to 12 months.
Mr. Tate, you had another question?
I was just going to say, you know, I remember coming to you all probably about 3 or 4 years ago, asking that we increase our funding for Wallace Airport, and you all did. And of course, you know, this airport's in my district, and it's so important for the economic development of the well-being. And I just thank you all for being so proactive to see the vision of this for the airport. And Mr. Williams, I know you've been involved in meetings and so forth with the town, and know how important this airport is to all of us, and certainly economic development. And thank you, Matt, for keeping us informed about the airport. You know,
Pleasure to do so.
Matt's a great person to work on the board with. I serve on the Wallace Airport board with him, and he often, if I can't make it a meeting, he keep me informed. Just like today, it was great to know that Matt was coming, because he just thank you, Matt, for all that you do to make sure I'm informed so I can share with our board. So
Okay, I'll do my best.
you always do. I appreciate you. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. More questions? One other thing, if you don't mind, just to remind you about the Carolina Strawberry Festival coming up. I have to do that because I'm the chairman. It's free, though. I'm not.
The mayor's back watching this meeting on his computer to make sure you do that.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that would like to go to the festival. Like, it's been very successful the past few years, and we've got Band of Oz, Ken Knox, the chairman of the board, again, the Breeze Band, 40 East, and a lot of other things. So we hope to have a big crowd out there. So we invite everybody to come out to the Carolina
Is that this
Strawberry
weekend?
Festival. No, May 9th and 10th, and
Okay.
we'll have a free movie May 8th, Frozen, down at the depot if you want to come see that with the kids. So, thanks again.
Thanks, Joe.
Item number 6, public information. We have Matt Mulholland, Topsail High School student, and Mr. Ward and I say go Pirates. Presentation on senior project.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Board. It is my pleasure to be up here introducing Mr. Mulholland to you. As stated in the information, Mr. Mulholland is a senior at Topsail High School and has been tasked with a senior project. And I received the distinct pleasure to get the phone call asking if I would serve as a mentor for Mr. Mulholland for this project. We met several times to go over his ideas, and I'll tell you, his ideas tended to blow me out of the water. So it is, once again, my pleasure to introduce Matt to present to this board his senior project and to garner some feedback from the board. Just to mention, he did present this to the planning board at the first Tuesday in April, and I think he might have sold a housing unit to one of my board members. So I think we're
You
doing
better
pretty
patent
good.
it real quick, my friend. You better get a lawyer on that.
So I will stop talking and turn this over to Mr. Mulholland. Thank you.
So my topic is sustainable housing community. Thank you. And the idea is the development of small, compact homes that offer an eco-friendly lifestyle at a low cost. It advocates simple living and an economical lifestyle. It focuses on people's essential needs rather than their desires, and is built upon the tiny house movement derived from Jay Schaefer. These are potential home designs as well as the one I created. Just what I would think of it. And reasons why. It reduces utility costs, property taxes, bills, maintenance, and repairs, encourages a less cluttered, simple lifestyle that I said, and reduces ecological impacts. And living in this technological age, telecommuting has become a reality for many people around the world, and therefore this lifestyle would be ideal in my point of view. This concept reaches to a wide range of demographics. For example, a college student living paycheck to paycheck may consider this type of living to reduce costs, or an elderly couple may decide to downsize to reduce maintenance. The advantages, money is saved on utility bills, there's very little yard to maintain, property taxes will be lower, there's an option to focus on your main priorities, there's very little wasted space, maintenance is at a minimum, there's reduced environmental impact on the community, it is green homes for energy efficiency, and it can serve as a potential revenue base for citizens in the community because you are using solar panels, and the solar panel provider would be saving money as well as you because you're using basically free energy. Necessities to develop this would be land, labor, close proximity to services, multimodal transportation to access the services and jobs, and above all, meeting the minimum building requirements set forth by the International Code Council. The associated costs are permitting, site work, infrastructure, materials, and labor. Minimum requirements from the International Code Council book are minimum height, sanitation, and emergency escape, design criteria, location on lot, minimum interior areas, and stairways. The minimum height for any home is nothing less than 7 feet from the floor to a furred ceiling, which would be a flat ceiling, or 5 feet from the ground to a sloped ceiling, just to take into consideration for this. Sanitation would be toilet facilities, a kitchen, sewage disposal, and water supply to all fixtures. An emergency escape must be in every sleeping room and any habitable space. The design criteria focuses on regions where basic wind speeds exceed 110 miles an hour, and they should be designed in accordance with this high wind speed. And there are 4 different wind speeds: 115 miles an hour, 120 miles an hour, 125 miles an hour, and 130 miles an hour. And it basically states that homes or buildings built in this area must be able to withstand this specific speed. Location on lot focuses on exterior walls must be able to they must be at least 3 feet from the dividing lot line in case of emergencies. The minimum interior areas says that there should be at least one habitable room that should not have less than 120 square feet. Other rooms should not have less than 70 square feet. The minimum dimensions should be nothing less than 7 feet in horizontal direction except kitchens. The height effect is what I said about the height of rooms. And the means of egress, 3 feet wide for hallways and doors, and the headroom is 6 foot 8 inches. Stairways should not be less than 3 feet wide at all points, and spiral staircases can be 26 inches because it goes straight up. Impediments in this project would be there's limited space for a family to grow, there's not much storage or closet space, and due to county codes, this concept may be cost prohibitive. And would they allow for this type of unit, and would they allow for the reduced lot size with these tiny homes? In conclusion, it offers individuals an affordable lifestyle without having to reside in multi-unit dwelling, and it also gives people a place they can truly call their own.
That's the truth.
I was asking myself the same questions as you did on the, right before your conclusion, you know, and it had mainly to do with codes and things.
Yeah.
But this is, it's an interesting idea, but if it was in its own kind of PUD or PUD or something like within and of itself, are there ways around that kind of stuff? If it's, the whole community's gonna be based on, you know.
Yeah, sure. Of course, the county would have to look at density requirements and allowable units per acre. And, you know, that's a big inhibitor with this type of product is the cost savings associated with it. So can we have our roads and all the infrastructure necessary by still meeting that threshold that the county has? Off the cuff, I would say we would have a hard time, just depending on how much space each unit was afforded, but certainly something we should look at.
Yeah, well, from looking at it from that aspect, but look at it from the cost of actually having, cost of living in this unit, regardless of the county's requirement on whether it's gotta be on an acre of land or whatever. You look at the cost savings you would have for your regular living expenses in a unit of that nature. You could still have it on your acre of land.
Sure. And, you know, what we talked about at the planning board was, you know, the balance between market demand and product type. You know, is this something that we could look towards the future to incentivize for developers, for our ever-growing beach community and our service industry, where folks can't or may not be able to afford your typical single-family, you know, 2,000 square foot home.
Well,
There's gonna be a yard sale at 240 Doral Drive Saturday, by the way.
Sure.
And I'm not gonna say exactly the words I used, but we got a lot of stuff.
Sure.
And we all like a lot of stuff.
Sure.
And, you know, how much stuff do you need? And I might have phrased it a little more colorful than that when I was looking at it.
And working with Matt, I think that his generation certainly does not have the necessities that we think that we have, or me at least. You know, I felt that I needed to have that half acre, and I needed to mow my yard, but, you know, here I'm looking at long grass, and I don't want to mow my yard. So, you know, there's certain things that...
I would like to say this, first of all, two things. Mr. Maholo, I appreciate for your appearance because you look very well presenting this to us. I thank you for that. Second, I don't know if anybody's seen Shark Tank, but if you're looking for any investors, I want to put my first bid out there. But that's, I don't know if anybody is familiar with watching the news. The gentleman came up with one of these devices, but it was pretty neat. And if you out there and listen to people, a lot of people downsize after they have family and everybody kind of downsizes and get something smaller. So you have something going on here. Yeah, but it's neat. I like that.
Also, a lot of articles I've recently read, the McMansion is on its way out. Because think about how many times do you use your dining room or your third bedroom or a kitchenette, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I think about.
A lot of people don't like the stairs no more. You know, they like that single. They want the kitchen. They want the couch right there. That's me. I like to have the kitchen right there, the couch, the bathroom down here, and the bed right there. That's perfect for me.
You know. Well, you can do that when you kick all the kids out. You see?
And a recliner with a refrigerator.
There you go.
Right?
You want to study architecture? Going into architecture?
I'm interested.
Architect?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what you're planning to study?
Well, it was my decision in about 10th grade. I had another project like this, but it's a possibility, I guess. I mean, it'd be good.
You in what grade at the current time?
I'm a senior. Oh, when that project was?
When you started the project, when you currently started the project.
This one or? Oh, I'm a senior right now.
You're a senior now at Topsail High.
Yes.
When did you actually start the study of architecture?
Oh,
When did your
probably
interest first-
late 9th grade. Yeah, because I talked to an architect at a county up in Ohio, actually, and he got me interested in it. So I had an interview with him over the phone, and yeah, it's just something I did.
I'm just thinking, I'm back in school myself, this first semester back in the years of being in school, and studying a lot about generational leadership at the current time. And just hearing you mention that in the 9th grade you were talking with someone in the field that you aspire to be at, I would tell you that I certainly did not have that level of enthusiasm about my future. You are to be commended. You make us look well in Pender County.
Yeah.
Best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well done.
I would say this, if we find out Mr. Beard leave and go into business for building, we know what it's all about. But very good job. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Last item under public information, Tammy Paris, Pender County citizen, brain aneurysm survivor, coordinator for Kitchens That Care, presentation of brain aneurysm awareness event to support the Brain Aneurysm Foundation. Ms. Tammy is no stranger to us. She is relentless and energetic in this cause, and we thank you.
And I would say this before Miss Tammy starts. When she asked Ms. Parrish to ask me, she said, Chester, do I need to pass this out now before the meeting or wait? I said, you can wait, So she was nervous about that, passing that out in the middle, but I told her she'll be all right. Giving it to us, we need it right, fresh on hand, so we don't want to lay it
That's
around. So-
right, exactly.
So y'all good, Ms. Parrish?
Mr. Chairman and the board, and what's left of our congregation here, I declare. Thank you for having me back. I am no stranger. I never thought that I would be doing anything like this, but I tell you, it's just been something that's been driving me for quite some time. Most everybody in here knows I am a brain aneurysm survivor, and I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary, March 28th. And I'm very thankful to be alive, and I'm very thankful that I have all of my faculties and everything about me, what most would consider normal. Probably Carson and Woody would say, no, she's not normal. She never has been normal, but that's okay. I'm special. So if you will, just give me a few minutes of your time. Mr. Chairman, I shared with you and the other board members my article that appeared in the Brain Aneurysm Foundation newsletter for the spring. It was published, and I'm very proud of it. They asked me to do it. It's called Don't Procrastinate, Let's Educate Before It's Too Late. I just want to read just a few little paragraphs from that. I won't read the entire thing because I really want to tell you about Kitchens That Care. For months, I wrestled with the burning in my stomach and the need to do something. After my own experience as a brain aneurysm survivor, I can say without a doubt that little is known about the silent killer, and I'm determined to change that. In September of 2013, I set out on my very own personal quest to put North Carolina on the map. I asked my coworkers to sign an online petition through the Brain Aneurysm Foundation website, and they did not fail me. The petition is set up for individuals to ask for efforts to raise awareness about brain aneurysms. The petition also allows participants to show support by submitting a letter to Congressman Mike McIntyre and Vice President Joe Biden to push the national movement forward. Once I saw that I had the support of my coworkers and read a few of the comments that others had made, I began to think about our local government to include towns, cities, commissioners, etc., and how they could help me encourage the governor to adopt an official proclamation recognizing September as Brain Aneurysm Awareness Month. So my journey began to put North Carolina on the map. Without going into great detail, I did it. I put North Carolina on the map. So we officially in this state recognize September as Brain Aneurysm Awareness Month. Some of you may or may not know that May is Stroke Awareness Month in this state. And the reason I know this is because I was recently appointed to the UNC Stroke Advisory Board in Chapel Hill. So I get to go up there with the doctors and nurses and all those high-paid people and sit at the panel and all that, and they actually want to hear my opinion of what needs to be done and so on and so forth. So I got to thinking about, in collaboration with stroke awareness and brain aneurysm awareness, because there is a direct correlation, I thought, why not try to do an event in May to wrap people's heads around the whole concept of brain aneurysm awareness. And so I have come up with a concept. It's called Kitchens That Care. And this nice logo that's on this sheet was actually designed by a young man whose father is a brain aneurysm survivor. You'll notice the head, you'll notice the fork, the spoon, and the knife. It's called Kitchens That Care. Forks, spoons, and knives, saving lives. This is something that I decided to do, and I decided that I wanted our local restaurants here in Pender County, New Hanover, Onslow, and Brunswick to help me. And I have asked 17 restaurants to support this awareness cause on Saturday, May the 10th, between the hours of 6 and 9. So I am telling everybody in here to go out to eat Mother's Day weekend. Take your mother, your aunt, your sister, your daughter, your wife, but take them out to eat. And the place is at the bottom of the flyer, and I made enough, so please grab one on your way out that's on the corner of the table. I will read to you the restaurants that are in agreement of doing this for me. In Topsail Beach, we have Beach Shop, Homeport, and Breezeway. In Surf City, we have Batson's Galley, Max's Pizza, Sherry's, Long Island Pizza, Quartermaster's, The Bistro. In Hampstead, I have Village Cafe. In Wilmington, I have Peppercorn Spirits, PT's Grill, Elizabeth Pizza, On the Border, Big Daddy's in Curie Beach. Carolina Beach has Michael's Seafood, and in Sneed's Ferry, we have Denoyas. I'm very happy these folks really took a chance on me and what I'm advocating for, and they're very, very excited about doing this. So please go out to eat on Saturday, May the 10th, and support this cause. A portion of your dinner proceeds will be directly donated to the Brain Aneurysm Foundation. And I will tell you that it is a wonderful organization. It helped me immensely with the support group and getting information about brain aneurysms. I've been able to get multiple DVDs and all kinds of pamphlets and worksheets that I have shared with the county. I've given it to the health department, the social services department. I've been to several healthcare facilities up in Surf City and Hampstead. I've given some even in New Hanover County. I am just one person, but I'm doing this because if I can save just one life, it's worth it. So please go out to eat. Please go out to eat. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paris. Anybody have any comments?
And by the way, I have asked people on this side of the county to support, but I cannot get any calls back. So if you have any pull with bandanas or Moe's in Atkinson or Hollins Fish Camp, if anybody can help me, my email address and all of that is actually on the town website, and you can look at it. If you can help me, I'm still taking people. I had a goal of 20, and I'm at 17. So if I can get 3 more, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, public comment. Do we have any sign-ups for public comment?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing none, we will go to consent agenda. Have 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there any item that any commissioner would like pulled or discussed before we vote on the consent agenda? Hearing none, like a motion on the consent agenda, please.
So
Motion.
moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Brown, second by Mr. Coy. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Ends the consent agenda. Next item we have is under resolutions. Resolution authorizing approval of the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council Annual Plan, board members, and funding recommendations for fiscal year 2014-15. Ms. Turner.
Good
Vote is
afternoon,
yours.
gentlemen. I am before you again this year to ask you to approve the annual plan, which includes the board membership and the funding recommendations of the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, or JCPC, is a state-mandated council, and we're tasked with overseeing the funds that come from the state. We receive funds based on a youth per capita basis. We are anticipating getting $113,591 again this year. They haven't said anything to us about considering a reduction, so we did base our recommendations on that figure. A part of doing the annual plan, we have to do a risk and needs assessment every year. And in doing that this year, we had to prioritize the funding, what we were going to advertise for, and psychological assessments was our number one thing, is quickly getting the juveniles assessed and then sent to wherever they need to go for, whether it's counseling in the home or group setting. Counseling does seem to be one of the things that we are in dire need for these juveniles. So number 2 was the individual, group, and/or family counseling. And then number 3 was home-based counseling. Then community service and restitution, which we are very happy that the community service program does have that restitution component to allow for them to repay their victims. And then teen court. We did advertise and we received 5 program agreements, and we ended up picking 4 out of the 5 because one of them did not actually meet our funding requirements. So we are asking you to approve the funding recommendations for psychological services, which does assessments and counseling. That is done out of our Department of Social Services here. And then juvenile community service and restitution, teen court, and then through Coastal Horizon, the counseling service, focusing on anger management for adolescents. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer.
So, Dee, you're saying your feedback so far has been that they're probably not going to increase it, but they're pretty much going to be static?
That is correct. This is the first year in, I think, 3 years that they've told us not to go ahead and plan on a decrease in our funding, so
Less than ideal, but better than the last few years.
that's correct.
Mr. Brown, I think you were going to say something?
I was asking Mr. Ward, is he the commissioner serving on that board? So
Yes.
I didn't know
Yeah,
if you wanted to make a motion. or
Yeah,
whatever.
whenever, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, I didn't know if you had any.
Hearing none,
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
have a motion and a second, all in favor? Thank you, Dee.
Thank you.
Mr. Batson did come in the door there. I thought we were going to have Mr. Newman. Resolution authorizing the issuance of purchase order to Creek Ridge Capital for the remaining annual lease payment for the Public Safety Virtual Network, $8,517.68.
That's Carson's. I'm here asking approval for
I'm
pyrotechnic
sorry,
permit.
good gosh.
I was getting
I
ready to
moved
say
my
it.
screen on me. I moved my screen there. See, I used to flip through the book, no problem. Okay, resolution authorizing approval of Surf City pyrotechnic display on July 3rd, 2014, in accordance with North Carolina General Statute. Mr. Batson, thank you for being patient
No
with
problem.
the chairman.
I'm just here to ask for your permission to allow Surf City to perform their fireworks show July 3rd, 2014.
Mr. Chairman, if you're ready, I'll make a motion.
I second.
With the let us light them, can we start this, can we light the first one?
No, ATF won't allow you anymore.
How about fireworks, aren't you? I think I've heard a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Thank you,
It is
Commissioners.
quite a show, make no mistake about that. I'm talking about fireworks. I got to get back on the right page here. Okay, next on the agenda, we're going to have Miss Baker, and brings me pleasure to see you being able to walk up here like you do, and you're getting around much better, I see.
Walking I've accomplished, sitting is the next challenge.
I can tell it was bothering you, but thank you for being patient. I should have moved you to the front of the agenda.
Oh,
Resolution
Glenda so
authorizing.
graciously put me on this agenda at the last minute, so thank you, Ms. Glenda.
Resolution authorizing approval of proclamation by the Pender County Board of Commissioners, Travel and Tourism Week in Pender County, May 3rd through 11th, 2014. Thank you, Ms. Baker.
I thought I'd take the opportunity to show you our brand new visitor's guide. Just came in on Friday. Okay, and let's see. We're going this way or this way? Okay, there we are. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that introduction, and the board for this opportunity. As you kind of figured out, tourism is the second largest industry. Can you hear me now? In Pender County, as well as in the state. As May 3rd through the 11th is National Travel and Tourism Week, and it encourages local governments to participate. Thank you for doing that. And in the U.S., tourism creates jobs at a 19% faster rate than any other industry sector. So I'm so glad we have a strong tourism industry here, because I think that a little bit attributes to our growth lately. I hope you agree. But let's get closer to home here. North Carolina ranks 6th in visitation in the U.S., resulting in approximately 200,000 jobs, $4.2 billion in the state's payroll, visitors spending $19.4 billion, which was a 5% increase over the year before. That created $970 million in state tax receipts, which saved each North Carolina household $423 in state and local tax savings, or $159 per NC resident. And for Pender County, we ranked 43rd in visitation in North Carolina, resulting in 740 jobs, $13.4 million in payroll, with an economic impact of over $80 million, and a 5.5% increase over 2011. $9.4 million in state and local taxes we contributed because of that. And it saved us, each one of us, $173.56 in tax savings. While I had you here, again, going to take the opportunity. We started out, as you can see, with the new visitor's guide and with the ads I'm showing you here, a new campaign this year. We call it With Us. And the first ad here is Unwind With Us. This will be going in Topsail Magazine. Breathe With Us will be going in the Raleigh N&O. Ride With Us. We haven't used that yet. I'm anxious to use that. That's very pretty. And it goes on and on. Nap With Us, Boat With Us. We can, go on and on, and it's endless. But we're very excited about the new campaign and the new look to go along with our new digs. To conclude, leisure travel accounts for more than 3/4 of the travel in the United States. Again, we have a strong leisure travel industry, yay. And I was hoping that all this rah-rah would get you in the mood to approve the proclamation that May 3rd through the 11th, 2014 as Travel and Tourism Week in Pender County.
Monique, it's good to see you back before us and getting back to your old self. And you always do a good job with us. I wanted to ask you for a couple extra of these because I'm going to be going to visit some of my customers out of the area. And one of them came last year, and I was rattling off, sending them an email. And I didn't have one of these handy, but also going to hand some of these out at a couple places.
Oh.
So I'd like to have a couple of those today.
Great.
Any other question or comment from Monique before we vote on the proclamation?
I just wanted to echo what you were saying. It's good to see Monique back. I think I was talking with a friend of mine in Charlotte not too long ago, and they told me you were at a tourism conference that day. I was talking with them.
That was my first out and about.
You represent us very well there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Haven't missed one in 17 years. I wasn't going to miss this one.
So when are you going to be able to move into your new office?
Ooh, we're waiting on IT to install the wiring. It looks like maybe next week.
Okay.
Dr. Duvall would know more about that.
I think we're on schedule. IT is the biggest holdup right now. We've got to make sure that everything gets set up, and then we want to make double sure that we get on a risk pool, because that does have steps on the front. So anytime you have some steps, you want to make sure that your property is properly insured. So we got to jump through the hoops. We're on the way.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
So you're going to have to go over there and pick her up, put her up on the porch? Is that what you're saying?
There is a ramp actually on the side.
So for the folks that don't know,
it was really good that we had that ramp too.
Yeah, for the folks that may not know it, our tourism office is moving into the old original jail here in Burgaw.
That's a pleasant, what in the
I
world?
didn't know that. That is really good.
It is. I was hoping that we'd be open and ready and show it off for the tourism week, but I'm not, that's a little ambitious, but,
Have it been renovated?
uh-huh. Louis,
I'm glad I came today.
Didn't know that.
Need to go over there and take a look at it.
as soon as I can get y'all in there, you're definitely going to have an open house and invite everybody. And Louis Hesse with the town of Burgaw was probably very instrumental in getting this done, as well as many of
It
you.
started back about, what, a year ago?
Well, we had the building, but the town really couldn't do much with it, but, so we're gonna have tourism over there. The town's gonna use part of the building for their document storage. It's a pretty good part.
Was it upstairs or downstairs?
Oh, no, it's downstairs.
Bars and all are still upstairs. The jail's still
Oh,
upstairs.
okay.
They got bars on them.
I have bars on my windows.
I make a motion, we accept this.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Turner.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I'd like.
Monique, are these your glasses?
Item number 14, Mr. Mack is here. Resolution authorizing acceptance of the fuel management services of Go Energies to provide 3 county-owned fuel depot stations, fuel cloud software from GE Software Incorporated, and wireless communications at each depot location in the not-to-exceed amount of $300,000 for the tanks and equipment, and $800 per month for the fuel management software support and concierge service, and the authorization of a purchase order for said contract. Mr. Mack.
You did that very well. Thank you very much, Chairman. That was quite a mouthful. Take a breath,
I
Mike.
didn't put my hand down on my screen and scroll down, not knowing that.
Well, it's hard to follow and act like Mo, but as you know, and have heard, we've had issues with fuel over the last couple of years. Options for the county to buy fuel, bulk pricing, has been dwindling. In fact, I attached a letter on January 21st in our current fuel management group, which is Springer Eubank, which purchased WK Hobbs that we were with prior to that, and they're all now owned under part of the Worsley Company. And they provided us a notice, and it wasn't just to the county, it was to 4 county schools, anybody that was on the system, EMS, Mr. Sullivan, Town of Burgaw. We all received the same letter that as of April 16th, and I believe the original letter was March 15th was the original cutoff date, but they were going to discontinue the fuel services at the 2 major fuel depots that we use, and Mr. Sullivan's, is it Chief Sullivan? I'm sorry. He has a lot of bars on his arm, that we use for fueling our fleet vehicles. That they were, to them, were considered low volume areas. However, that was where we got our bulk fuel pricing, was at those 2 low volume, because they were low overhead centers, so our bulk pricing was there. They're done. The fuel is gone. We have no other, those 2 depots are basically out of business, and Springer Eubanks, aka Worsley Company, ran up here with a bunch of new cards, and so we're going to have to go to our retail locations. That just, it actually happened. They cut our fuel off a couple of weeks ago. I got a call on a Monday morning that my guys couldn't get fuel.
Well, let me ask you something, because when I first read this, I went through and read all of this information.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I did not understand why we were having to do this until I got to reading the details.
Yes.
And seeing that we don't have a choice here.
Well, we've always been looking, and over the last couple of years, all of us, the folks in the room, Carson stepped out, the sheriff, and all the folks.
The information you shared
It
with us
was kind of
here,
the
Springer
final
Eubank
straw.
Or Worsley is no longer going to provide that.
Well, they will, but it's almost at retail cost.
So that's what I'm saying, we
kind of
would go to a
pushed us
retail
into the
cost.
corner, because we've been working. Butch has been since he's
That
been
was
here.
the point I was getting ready to
Yeah,
make. If we stay with them, we'll be going to the pump, paying
It's
basically retail for
2
the
cents
fuel.
off of retail. It's not a bulk price. So, Mr. Sullivan, he had his ear to the ground, first of all. Pender County Schools, David Smith and them have this same fuel management group
Yeah, and
with
that
them.
was my next question. I'd asked the manager and the assistant manager about that earlier today,
Mhm.
was whatever happened with the schools, going in with the schools and possibly say, I think Mr. Tate was the one that originally came up with that when he made the suggestion to actually go with the schools on buying bulk fuel, maybe it could help save, save us a little money here. But I understand that the schools, that's not gonna happen between the county and the schools then.
I know we were all in dialogues before county was at the table and all that, and I can't say why the schools did their own thing. I don't know if you may know.
Thank you, Commissioners. The logistics with the schools is they need to have their own locations with, and also with the security. That was the issue with the fuel, doing something together with them. We talked with them about that.
So, well, let me ask you, what kind of security do they need in addition to what?
Accessibility and some of the state guidelines is our understanding.
So that would still prohibit us from doing something with the schools?
Yes, it would be. I mean, as a bulk customer with Pender County Schools.
What kind of security measures would they need that we wouldn't have to meet, and what kind of state guidelines would they have to comply with that we would not have to be in regulation with?
It's been a while ago since I talked to David Smith about it, but it was about accessibility for school buses and fuel oil and where their tanks were located and where all their property was located.
Do a truck not take the delivery of fuel to the school buses?
I didn't get into all the full details. I just talked to David Smith about it, and he said that would not work based on what we were proposing at the time.
I kind of thought it was a good idea, Mr. Tate.
I did too.
I mean, we're working towards that avenue, and again, for different reasons, and it may be, they have 11 depots throughout the school system, and maybe it was us bringing our fleet vehicles and EMS vehicles through school properties, was where the security, not to secure their own, but allowing us through the school properties. Ladder trucks all coming, maybe that was a security issue. Pat's shaking her head that was probably a
I'm not trying to be a
interest.
pain here or anything. We're talking about going out and creating 3 new stations now. Whenever, it looks like it could have possibly been something we could parallel with the schools with and using existing stations. I hear what you're saying, but I've not really heard an answer to the question, which is why the schools why we could not join with the schools and do this. I've heard security. What is it about the schools?
If I understand the conversation we had with Mr. Smith, more than security and location was how their fuel is funded and kept up with and tracked, and if we integrated our systems, there was a lot of reluctance from Raleigh down to do that. It needed to be a segregated system. I think it was an accounting problem as well as logistics and locations. Because of the type of equipment.
So Raleigh indicated to the schools.
I'm not saying Raleigh did. I'm just saying I think there's an accounting problem there as well.
You said someone in Raleigh, you understand?
I'm just saying State Board of Education, how their fuel is funded, because I know they're funded differently.
Okay, and that's fine, but I would like to ask Mr. Manager, could you, for me, find out why we can't go in with the schools on this?
Okay.
I want to know, if Raleigh has sent some kind of word down to the schools, that's fine. I just want to see it.
And I think, again, another thing that Mr. Smith had mentioned when we talked to David was the makeup of their fuel as far as their usage was different than ours. Did that not fall? It's been a while since we talked on this, but we'll get some definitive on this.
You've got buses probably using diesel fuel, gasoline.
That's right.
I don't know that the diesel fuel will be any different than the diesel fuel we're using in our trucks.
Well,
I don't know that the gasoline be any different.
No,
than the
but I'm
gasoline
saying the
Guys,
amounts
all
and
I'm
volumes.
after here is to find out why we can't look at ways of saving money.
Okay.
And that's the only,
That's
and
fair
I'm
enough.
not blaming any of the folks in the room here today. I thought it was a good idea to go in with the schools and possibly save money for the schools and for the county.
Okay.
And since we've been more or less told we're not going to be allowed to do that, I'd like to know why.
Okay.
Can I ask this question, because I support what Mr. Brown has said, it's a very good point. When I speak on it definitively tomorrow, if I elect to do that, who said that someone in Raleigh told them, Mr. Smith, that they could not use the fuel? Who said that? I'm very good contact with June Atkinson, office at State Superintendent, and I want to make sure I know who said that.
The point was, I think it wasn't stated that, I'm not sure about the statement as arbitrarily as you can't do it, but I think it created so much logistics problem on how they buy fuel that it greatly complicated the process.
Okay.
And this was a meeting we had with David Smith how many months ago? Because we moved past it with him several months ago. It's probably you know, as this process is going on.
And that's fine. You know what? You may be exactly right. There may be good reasons why this can't happen. I'd just like for them to send something to you so that I can satisfy myself that, that this would not make sense for us. Or that this would definitely make it difficult for the schools if we did this.
So other counties have already tried that, I guess. I mean,
I don't know. Have other counties done it? Could you check on that? See if other counties have done it.
Certainly do that.
From the state office, you will contact the state department.
Well, I'll contact, yes, I will.
DPI.
Yeah, sure will.
I can't speak to what happened. I know we were all at the same table trying to meet the same goals. I can't tell you why the table's divided. But we have the same company here. In fact, Kevin Keene is here with Go Energies to help answer any of the questions. This does get us to the same per se goal. We control our own destiny. We're going to buy our own 12,000-gallon tanks. You know, the land will be Pender County land.
I look at this
EMS.
as Plan B. I just want to know why Plan A didn't work. You know, that's the only thing I'm asking for.
Yeah. But this is the same group, so it's like they're already there. Pender County Schools is in with this group, 11 depots, and they're moving ahead. And
But that doesn't make the argument any better.
oh, I
for me.
understand.
No, it doesn't.
I
It actually
understand.
convolutes the argument.
Well, again, I don't know why they left the table.
I mean, if they're using the same company,
I think.
why it should be an easy transition?
Okay, it may need to be a division there. There may be good reasons why there needs to be a division, and that's fine. I guess we need to move on today with what we've got here. But I would like an answer to those questions.
We've got to be able to buy fuel.
Yep. And
We don't want to send every vehicle to the retail outlet,
No.
and fuel up every time.
no.
And right now, we really don't have, the options are very limited unless we do some kind of program like this.
Well, it's like with anything else, solid waste or anything else. If you don't control your own stream and your own destiny, you're at the mercy of others. And so this allows us to be in the fuel business. We will own the tanks.
Since
We
we-
will. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The tanks will be Pender County's tanks. They will be constructed to very high standards. They're already DENR-approved, self-contained standards. The tanks are part of the deal. They're the hardware. The Go Energies group with Kevin and his group is the software and the fuel management system that then goes with it. The card systems, the accounting systems. It's very quite advanced technology. We will know every vehicle how much fuel they're using. We can watch fuel trends. They have a concierge service where they can actually go procure fuel when we get real low on fuel. I think that's actually one of Kevin's primary jobs. Kevin will actually act as our agent and go shop bulk pricing for fuel. Or we have the option, because there are tanks, is that we can go out annually, every 2 years, every 3 years, do a bulk price RFP. We can solicit bulk fuel price. On average, and I put this on here to be very conservative, when we get to that point, because we do our own tanks, we could save on an average of 20 cents per gallon locking into a bulk rate price. That has nothing to do with Go Energies. They don't care whose fuel goes in it. That's our concern, and that's where our fuel savings comes from and our cost savings. And so if we can save approximately $72,000 a year in buying bulk fuel and controlling our own destiny and getting the rate at the port, actually where the fuel depots are, we're going to pay for our hardware in about 4 years.
So this will include EMS, Sheriff's Department,
Yes.
county vehicles, all of that?
Yes. And that's why we're getting the little bigger tanks, the 12,000-gallon tanks.
And one thing, Mr. Chairman, don't mean to interrupt, Michael, that we liked about the situation was these can be unloaded with a lowboy, and in the event of a hurricane or natural disaster, they can be moved. All you do is cut the conduit, put a generator to them in another location, and you can move them throughout the county. They're highly mobile.
The tanks?
The tanks.
The tank
The whole entire
themselves.
system.
And so if you want to drill down some more information, Kevin is here. He can help us. Again, the goal is the upfront is the capital cost to buy the tanks. And Mr. Watson is proposing that we do, 5-year.
Mr. Mack, I got a
Installment.
question for you. Since
Yes,
you're
sir.
talking about saving costs based on the bulk,
Right.
are there other alternatives or ways that we are trying to save, not just by price? And the question I'm saying is, are there other alternatives as far as fuel that you can use, or Are there ways that I don't know if you was mentioning in the technology that can tell us how many miles are used? Are there other ways that we can cut back on this cost? Since you're speaking of
We
that.
could put governors on all the deputies' cars.
Yeah, you can do that. Don't hurt me.
60 miles an hour, and no.
No.
We can look
Yeah.
into, there's hybrid technologies with the actual vehicles themselves, driving patterns. Those are real good, things that we can look into and drill down. Yeah, but the fuel management
Because,
system.
and the reason why I asked that,
Sorry
because
for the
just
smart
listen
answer.
to you saying buying the bulk.
Yep.
When the winter comes and natural gas goes up in price, if you want to stay warm, you're going to pay for it regardless.
Right.
But what I'm saying, I hear that we can save a lot based on the bulk, I guess, in barrels or however you're going to do it. But I just didn't know if there's some other ways that we can help save the usage of in that. Is that technology available for the county as far as, and I guess you're shaking your head, yes, that you can enlighten
Please
us
come to
on
the
that.
microphone.
I'm going to introduce, Kevin works for Go Energies and also Phil Doral. They are part of Go Gas, but it's a totally separate division of that. So I want to turn the microphone over to him. If it will stay up. Okay.
First of all, thank y'all for your consideration. One of the things, just to answer your first question, is I would be more than happy to work with the county on the possibility of introducing biodiesel. Town of Cary is one we already provide fuel for and fuel management for, and they do a B20 mixture. And I've seen a difference between regular ultra-low sulfur diesel, which is the standard diesel that goes in the tanks now, and biodiesel. The difference is around 7 to 8 cents a gallon. So there are options, yes, sir.
So we have to convert, is there any cost in probably convert that type of engine or placement over to that type of biodiesel?
No, sir, not whatsoever.
So
You
there's-
would want to gradually go to it, like from a B2 to maybe a B5, and then go to a B20, but I would be working with y'all to do that. So it would be a very, very easy transition, if that is what you desire.
I think because the reason why I asked that, because you can take some of our vehicles as far as like Department of Social Service.
Exactly.
And I don't know if you can offer some type of pilot program that we can first say use or not say use or see how it will work in those vehicles, because those cars around here mostly are local, to go into various houses. Now, not so much of the biodiesel that's in your patrol vehicle. It's a possibility, but I don't think that would be wise based on the type of vehicle or model that is made for.
Right.
But other types of cars that's going here and there, is that possible for that?
Absolutely.
And how can we do that? How can we look into that?
It's basically just a matter of Go Energies, we want to try this. And then what we can do is, for one load, we can go in with a small bio content to see what the difference in the price is and also see how you're conserving energy, what have you. And then you come back to me and say, this pilot's not really working, this trial's not working. We can transition the tank back to a regular diesel. So there are plenty of options out there. And just to echo on what he was just saying is, I sell 1.2 million gallons a month. So to mainly municipalities. I have 2 commercial customers, so it's mostly municipalities. Pender County Schools is one. I can't speak on what the issue is, but I'll provide any information that will help, alleviate that situation. But we also deliver fuel to the city of Durham, the county of Durham, Pender County Schools. I could go on. There's 35 municipalities we deliver fuel to. Some of them, city of New Bern. They ask us to manage the fuel in their tanks. We send it to their tanks at the right time with the market and in accordance to what their inventory is. City of Durham, they send out a bid every single time they have to get fuel, and they get 4 to 5 loads a week. So I'm involved in that. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't, but we still manage the fuel because we want what's best for the customer. And then there are others like Brunswick County who we had 2 years ago, and we're getting ready to go into another RFP with them where they go into a contract. We can help with that as well. Anything that will help you save money on fuel is what we want to do.
I think the other alternatives would probably be a good way that we can look at. And again, and Mr. Mackey, looking at that, what was help us, save money based on price, but other methods, can also be a win-win situation for us as well.
Absolutely. And one other thing I want to let you know, with the eco stations that are on the proposal, you will be getting on and off-site fueling with the same mechanism. It's a card that shows that keeps you completely accountable on-site as well as off-site. And it tracks all of the miles per gallon. It tracks who got the fuel, where, when, what they got. It's going to be wireless, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, now is this something that is supplied through you all?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, so we own the tanks.
Right.
Yes, sir.
We own the property the tanks
Right.
are sitting on, but we
Correct.
don't own the process by which we use the fuel or access the fuel.
The equipment is yours, yes, sir. The pumps, the card
The
reader.
card readers?
Yes, sir. The card reader is yours.
So if something happens, we no longer do business with this company, we're able to put fuel in our cars.
Absolutely.
Once the tanks are paid for, we're only
Okay.
going to continue to do.
So what does the $800 provide for us each month?
Software license, and I have some handouts for you to help you all as far as, if it's okay, if I go and hand these out.
So, this,
Shows you screenshots of the software.
And what he was alluding to is that it's just not just gas stations, whatever. I believe, and Kevin, tell me if I'm wrong, but this is accepted nationwide. There's 160,000 fueling stations. So no matter, where we have to go, we'll know what the fuel.
okay, let me ask the question then, that I'm kind of dancing around here. I'm just gonna be blunt and ask the question. Nothing against these folks, okay? We go in, and it looks like this is a good thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it does. If we decide we no longer want to purchase their software or pay them $800 a month, we can still access our fuel and fuel our vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Off-site. Well,
Okay.
There will be-
Now, I understand that paying them that $800, we do get a service in return that is gonna save us
Absolutely.
money. I do understand that, but I have to ask these questions because I'm not gonna be held hostage by anybody.
Absolutely.
Not for the county anyhow,
Absolutely.
okay?
Now, this-
Okay.
They know the predicament that we're in, and they're helping us to get up and running.
So we'll have generators at each one of these?
We'll be doing that in a separate procurement, yes, sir. Our goal is to
Okay,
have
it's not
at least
through
one
these
or
folks, but I
several.
mean, that is something we'll have, so if the power goes out, hurricanes, anything like that,
Yep.
our emergency vehicles will still be able to get fuel.
Yeah, and Captain Sullivan.
Yes, sir, and in fact, it's going to be on a platform on a skid, so it can be moved if necessary, if you want to put it in another strategic position.
All right, that sounds good.
I would still like for us to look at some other alternatives. I understand that we are saving price
Right.
in our bulk, but
Well, and again, that's what the immediate need right now is to get the fuel prices to where we control our own destiny. I think maybe what you're saying is we start to do some pilot programs. A lot of them that's going to be internal management type things that wouldn't necessarily have to go through a vendor or source. We've been buying the smaller
since we are
hybrid
getting that
cars.
service from it, maybe we can utilize that at the time being. So what I'm saying.
But we'll be able to watch the trends, like the Ford hybrids are probably doing better than the Ford Focuses or
Yeah,
something
I'm
to
not
that
so much of saying
effect.
to do a plug-in.
You
but,
ready to go electric,
Look at some
huh?
other alternatives.
Okay, these tanks will be on skids?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And they're fully self-contained, there's no big ugly dike that has to be around
What kind of security
it.
do we have at these stations?
We haven't got that far. We've still got to site them. I'm gonna have to have some engineering work done to get concrete pads installed, the electrical and pads, the electrical conduits brought in, transfer switches for electricity. We've got some groundwork to do in-house to prep for these tanks coming
I was
in.
just wondering how secure these areas will be as far as, sabotage, anything of that nature.
We are anticipating that they will be on
You
EMS
do have a
and
card
fire
that have a
sites.
PIN number, and you have to put in a lot of.
This right here.
Right,
You have to
but-
put in a PIN, and yeah,
It's useless.
yeah, you have to put in.
Is that what you mean, or you mean like lighting, sir? I mean, it's.
No, I wasn't talking about lighting. I was talking about anyone that could
They're
come
gonna
up.
be fenced in, I assume, or not, or
They're gonna be
well
on our
lit?
site. They're gonna use our real estate.
So there'll be site lighting and whatnot, and I
So
think you're
there'll
talking
be
about
folks around.
the identity theft situation.
Okay. What I was more concerned about vandalism or somebody sabotaging a piece of equipment and we not be able to use it.
They're gonna be adjacent to our stations on our property.
And the tanks are fire guard rated, so they have a 3 to 4 inch layer of concrete within the interstitial layer of the steel itself, double wall steel. So you can shoot it with a gun and it won't go off. In fact, you can keep it within 5 feet of a building.
So we own the sites, and they're all safe, well lit, generator backup, everything.
24 hour, 24/7 on-site
It'll be a lot
personnel.
like that site in Hampstead.
Which was
That's
just
at station. Hampstead, where we're using- You familiar with that site over at our old EMS station? I'll show you. I'll send you a picture.
The fact that he's not familiar with it means that it worked.
There you go,
So-
there you go.
That
Yeah.
means no news is
Yeah.
good news.
And like I said, we're looking at 3 tanks. That's why we're recommending the 3 Rocky Point, Burgaw, and Hampstead to
I think the best thing, and I guess with me having a more insight on it, because working for the county, what's real good is that card. You have that
Oh, yeah.
pen. I don't care who gets it. It's not like a credit card that you
They
can
don't
go.
let county commissioners have those cards.
So you have to put that pen down, and the best thing about it, if
Yep.
it belongs to Mr. Mack and it's used in Raleigh, we're gonna understand why you was in Raleigh and why that gas was in there. So that
we're gonna
yeah.
know it.
So
I mean,
that's the best thing about it.
It's
so.
almost real time, and in fact, it is real time, I
It is.
think.
It is. And
Yeah.
gentlemen, one more thing. I was telling Ms. Pat before we came up here, I said, a few months ago, the gentleman who purchases fuel for the county of Durham, I called him when he was getting ready to purchase fuel, because see, we'll have access to your inventory as well at all 3 sites, so I'll know when it's the right time. In addition to that, we can also, for strategic purposes, split between locations at no additional cost if we deliver the fuel. But let's say this. I called him, he was getting ready to get a load of fuel, and I called him, I said, wait until tomorrow. I know
That's
it's a lot
good.
to him.
That's good.
He saved 19 cents a gallon.
That's
I
real
When I
good.
first started in this business about 18, 19 years ago, I remember when gas wouldn't even move half a cent. Now we know after Katrina, it'll move $1.50 in a day.
Yeah.
So the market's following. And so I saved him 19 cents a gallon. That takes care of 2 months of the software fee right there.
Yeah.
One load.
And it's really like hiring a staff. This is a full-time fuel manager that we're leasing. I mean, we get the benefit of their professionalism, and Pat and I don't have to worry about it.
And I don't mean
Call for
to.
the question, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready.
Yeah, I think.
Call for the question.
Yes, sir. I think we
I'm exhausted, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I'll make a motion or second or whatever. Yeah.
I think we can entertain a motion on this stuff.
You making the motion?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Have a motion?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
If
gentlemen.
anybody know about
Kevin,
natural
appreciate
gas
it, buddy.
prices, I understand exactly what you're
Well,
saying.
it is.
I
It's volatile.
understand. That's good. Because it can track
We have appointments. Item number 15, resolution authorizing appointment of private sector representative to the Pender Housing Initiative Board. Ms. Herring.
Thank you, gentlemen. We received an application from Ms. Shannon Uden, who works with the school board, to fill our final open position with the Pender Housing Initiatives Board. She works with special needs programming, and even though she's filling a role as a private sector representative, she brings a lot of skills that we think will be valuable to the board in general, just advising us as we work with a challenging, low-income population. And we think the population that she works with and the population that we work with somewhat overlap. So we're very excited to finally fill this final position and have 100% on our board.
Hearing Ms. Herring, does anybody have any questions or comments regarding that?
Mr. Chairman, I have followed the email correspondence from Ms. Herron and her board members, and it seems like Kyle, Ms. Mosier, and everybody that responded was in agreement with this, and I'll be glad to make a motion if you're ready for it.
Yes, we are.
Okay, make a motion for it.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you, Ms. Herring.
Thank you very much.
Item 16, resolution authorizing approval of appointment to the Pender County Fire Commission representing Pender EMS and Fire. Ms. Pridgeon, and I think we all know the applicant. Anybody in here have any grave concerns about the applicant for this position? I don't know. Please speak now. All seriousness, this is an appointment, and it represents a lot of folks. And so they have requested that Mr. Sullivan be appointed to the Fire Commission representing Pender EMS and Fire.
I'm surprised it took this long.
They asked months ago, but I was resistant. and the resistance was futile. And
Well-
finally, I finally, with everything going on in the merger, I'm sorry, there were so many moving parts early on at the time, but as more questions came about future relationships and more questions about what we were doing, I felt like I needed to be the person on the fire commission at this stage.
To say the least, I think you'd be considered a huge component to our fire and EMS service. So I think it's an appropriate thing as long as you're willing to do it.
Oh, yeah,
He wants you to point him pretty quick. 'cause
Well, I'm ready to go
they eat
right now.
Tonight.
Yeah, they eat at 7, so.
They eat at 7, so. he wants you
Okay,
to make
so
the-
I'll make the motion to appoint Mr. Sullivan to the fire commission.
I'll be glad to second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
And I agree with that, a great component of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Woody.
I won't be there, but eat something for me when you're there tonight.
Don't eat none, bring it to us. Don't have to bring it. Is that it?
Actually, we have,
We done.
no, we've got a few other things here. I gotta get used to looking at it this way. We have items from the county manager, attorney, and county commissioners. Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As I had advised the board, there was the appeal heard in the matter involving Alistar, which was they started out with an outdoor shooting range and they removed that component. There was a decision in February from the Court of Appeals, which for the first time formally announced a standard for deciding whether an application was materially different the first time to the second time. The judge, in his wisdom, decided he wanted the board to make a formal finding, even though the board did say, even those members that voted against the ultimate application, that removing the outdoor shooting range was a substantial change. He said since that wasn't the wording that the court used, he wanted to remand it for the board to make a finding. We will come back. It will not involve another full public hearing. We are not to take additional evidence. You will hear from the attorney for the neighbors that are opposed. Alistar will be notified if they wish to be present and argue. And the question before you will be, did removing the outdoor shooting range, was that a material change to the application? And that will be the sole issue before you. And we'll go through that, and then it will go back to court. And unfortunately, we sat all day in court yesterday waiting to get heard. It was one of those days. We were third on the calendar, and we ended up getting heard about 3:30 starting. So anyway, it was, as I said to the other attorney whose client was there, I didn't have anybody here from the county, thank goodness, burning their time. Sometimes it's not fun watching the sausage get made, and that's what yesterday was.
Let me understand, we need to be more specific? Is that what it means?
In light of the decision that the Court of Appeals announced in February, which obviously there was no way, and I'm not trying to cover myself, I can't tell you about a decision in November that doesn't come down until February. The judge said we didn't use the language basically that was in the court's decision, so he wants us to decide based in light of that case. That's not uncommon. There are a lot of times you'll see cases get remanded in light of an appellate case. For instance, to throw out an example, there were multiple cases challenging the Affordable Care Act. Once the Supreme Court decided one, they remanded all the others to say make a decision based on what we said in this case. And the judge is saying that, make a decision based on what the Court of Appeals has said and make it express in light of that decision.
Well, let me ask you this. Why does any of that matter in the scheme of things? And the reason I'm asking this is because when they came back before us, they were not proposing an outdoor shooting range, were they not?
And I'm not trying to prejudice anything. The issue was if, in a standard case, say it's a car crash case, Mickey and I have a lawsuit about whether which of us had the green light. He wins. I can't come back 6 months later and sue again saying, no, I really had the green light. Once it's decided, it's decided. is an issue of how much that applies to a land use decision, because again, as a special use permit, you're quasi judicial. If it's the same application,
I got you.
you can't hear it again.
I
If
got
it's
you.
substantially different, you can.
So it's the folks, it is not that company
No,
that did
it-
this, it was the folks that
It's the
resisted.
neighbors saying
second
you
time
should
around.
not have ever allowed them to be heard the second.
I got you now. I got you.
But we're maintaining that it was a different application.
And at the time, and again, I'm not influencing anybody's vote, everybody seemed to say, well, wait a minute, and I will tell you, if you go back over the testimony, almost all of it was about the shooting range, and the decision specifically referenced the shooting range and nothing else. Because that was what was
Exactly.
the issue that was specifically there. Whether they should have gotten a second special use permit is a different issue, but this is just simply, does removing the outdoor shooting range make this a different application than, a substantially different application than the first one?
So,
Obviously.
so in the future, you just gonna tell us what's going on, or do you need anything from us?
Well, no, that you'll have, the judge wants you to make a
He
specific
wanna-
finding.
Is he gonna come and visit us?
No, sir, he's not.
I have a feeling the community is concerned that they're not gonna have to address this issue again.
I will say, just to advise the board, that Alistar's attorney withdrew from representing them. And usually that's because in the parlance of the courthouse, Mr. Green has failed to arrive from the client in terms of.
I heard some other
So
stuff too.
And I don't know about any of that, but I do know that he is no longer representing them.
Okay.
But
All right.
I just wanted to update you on that. We do have some items for closed session, the manager and I discussed, would be under items 3, 4, and 5. And that's appropriate, Mr. Chairman.
3, 4, 5, okay.
Thank you, Board. I wanted to let you know that we did have customer service training started back 2 weeks ago. Had a great attendance from department heads. Kicked it off with the School of Government's webinar. Now, this will be then taken to the next level with our line staff through the Cape Fear Community College, teaming up with the School of Government. So this is an ongoing process. I feel like, in government organizations, everybody feels like they deliver great customer service, but no matter how good you are, you can be a little bit better. And there's times when you don't have a good day and you come in and you don't feel like dealing with taxpayers, especially if you're over at the tax office, when one gets a rate or something about paying taxes, but you've got to put a smile on your face, you've got to deal with them in a manner that is consistent with what they expect and be a servant of the people. That's where we're headed with this thing. It's going to be ongoing. As long as I'm county manager, it'll be ongoing here and never let up. We're going to keep honing our customer service every month. We're going to have something to deal with customer service, not only at the department head level, but at the staff level. And then the next thing I wanted to let you know and just keep you briefed on is our budget process today started with those 1 o'clock meetings, and we've got 2 more the month of May and 1 more in June, and then the next one we pass the budget. So the next 3 1 o'clocks are going to be really important. There'll be a lot of information. You're going to see a new comparison chart this time. It takes everything, every line item back to 2010. You're going to be able to see blips in it. You're going to be able to see ups and downs on every line item budget, from travel to telephone to the whole works this time. So I hope you can come and look at it and take it in. So that's the rest of it I have is in closed session, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tate, would you kindly make the motion we discussed earlier, and then I'll conference him with y'all when you go to closed session? I'm going to hand the gavel over to the vice chairman. I've got to be somewhere at 7 o'clock, so I would ask y'all conference me in.
Okay. Sure.
While I'm traveling. So,
Sure.
Thank you. Please make a motion, excuse me if you would.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to make a motion to excuse Commissioner Williams.
Second.
Second it. Can I say? I guess I can. Okay. You can do
All
it.
in favor?
You do it.
Thank you for your patience.
Okay.
Mr. McCoy. Either one doesn't matter.
Okay, we'll continue. Mr. Tate, you have any comments?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Mack. Heard a lot of good comments about the Highway 11 transfer station there in Willard, for the gravel that's been done on the road there at the trash dump station. as well as for the new bins that's out. I'm hearing good things from our neighbors on that. And it doesn't take a whole lot to please folks sometimes, just a little effort, and I really appreciate that. I heard some good comments back on that. And I do want to also say, write down my comments, and I'm getting a little, what was that one? Oh, Mr. Ward, this is probably in your area, but I did receive a call last night from some folks over in Maple Hill in regards to the main highway there. I believe they're having some major drainage issues with water across the road, and they are seeking some assistance from DOT or someone to put up some flash stop water, and I shared with them I'll mention that today as well, and I wanted to do that at this time. Okay.
Anything else? Hey, Mr. Ward?
Yes, just one thing, and before I said that, I hope everyone had a happy Easter. And before I go into it, was something, and I hate for her to sit here this long. I wanted Ms. Turner, because she's over Park and Rec. I had a citizen, and I wish Mr. Wynn was in here to hear this, but a citizen over to Hampstead brought an idea that if we can bring something to the Kiwanis Park or something that we can look into. And this is a paddleball court. I'm not familiar with it. I guess I have a picture of it for those who are visual learners.
Kinesthetic.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. And for those, if it's something that we can look into, have an opportunity to put a paddleball court out there, and how much the cost on that. It was some people that said that they have to go down to Wilmington. I think they have one down there, and a couple of people from the Hampstead area play a game, and they were seeing how about having an opportunity for that to be out there to our Kiwanis Park. And that's something, just want you, if you can get some information on that, pass the idea to the Kiwanis Park, the organization out there, and can bring that back to the board. I appreciate it. Thank you.
What is that sport called? What is the name of that sport?
Paddleball court. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Brown?
Let's go back and ask my folks.
Since this was an item that came before us through some concerned citizens, do you remember here a while back when the folks had came in from Clayton Lane and they wanted some help with their road?
Yeah.
Probably a couple of years ago, they had approached me about that. I tried to help them with the road, but we ran into the same thing that we ran into a couple of years ago, which is this road was not really an established road before September of 1975. There were no dwellings on the road, no houses or anything, so the state turned them down. And so the state has, I was looking at the information where the state had shared with us before, and they definitely declined it. We as a board had, I think, asked the DOT to take that road over, but they turned it down. I was just reporting back to you all what I found so far. Some very upset folks that live on that road. I've talked to them every few days. At this point, there's not a whole lot we can do other than, I guess they could talk to their state legislators or see what recourse that they have. I'm afraid that at this point, and this goes for any of these roads in the county, if they weren't established before, I think it was around September of 1975, then the DOT will not take the road over unless the people on that road bring it up to state standards, which is very expensive.
Yeah.
And these folks are captured in within the same problem a lot of these other folks are. And since you used to work with DOT, Commissioner Ward, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Fred.
That's all right.
Since you used to work with DOT, is there anything these folks do, the rules that DOT lives by, like this September of 1975, was that something the state legislature enacted, approved, or was this something that DOT?
I believe the legislature is one that they have to set that into law. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
it's
state
pretty much-
legislature more or less sets the guidelines? Okay.
You might talk to Chris, I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking, that's the reason why I've told some of the folks on that road, maybe the best thing to do is get up with your state legislators and your state senator or
senator,
representative and see if,
Yeah.
what the next step would be for these folks. I don't see the state of North Carolina DOT taking on extra responsibility right now. I don't see it, but we're kind of at a loss as a commissioner what we can tell people.
Yeah.
Anyhow, just
So
want to
many-
give you an
yeah.
update on where we were at with those folks since they came in here in a public meeting and asked that we.
So many people find out they've been living on a road in a long time and found out, the right of way is just not there. You got to get everybody on that road to sign, willing to give, but that's a little bit different what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, too, but, you got to get everybody willing. I know Mr. Brown has a problem too, where you live. You can't get people to sign.
This is something that way before I was commissioner, but we've had one individual
Yeah.
that refuses to give the right of way.
You have one person hold up the whole process.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yes.
Anyhow, so Mr. Brown has to pay to fix the road.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all I got, and if you're ready.
I'd like to make a few comments.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, it played out in the news media about personnel. It really concerned me that these things should not be in the public news media. And I appreciate what the county manager said in the news media, that these things should not be cured off in the news media. It should be done through channels, through chain of command. I believe I was served in the Army, in the military. You've got to follow chain of command, and I appreciate you saying that in the news media. Yeah, that's what. You'll get burned eventually trying to solve things in the news media. You cannot do it through personnel. You've got to follow the channels to go through. And I've had the news media call me before about making comments, and I always say, I don't want to make any comment on that because it's going through the personnel department, and we should not get involved in that. I'm sure none of us.
Mr. McCoy, can I comment on that?
Okay.
It does a couple of things. It not only causes confusion, and it's not only breaking ranks, but it gives the wrong impression to the community when the news media gets hold of something like that, that we've done something wrong. Whenever you did not go to through your chain of command to find out, I mean, I didn't even know there was a real issue going on over there. All of a sudden, you hear about it in the news media. Going through the chain of command ensures that attention gets put on a subject. If it doesn't, everyone has a right to go see their county commissioner. If they're a taxpayer in the county of Pender County, I wouldn't deny them that right, but to just jump up and make those kind of comments to the news media is very misleading. And to me, it's unprofessional, and it was something I didn't appreciate as a commissioner. And as a citizen, I would have preferred finding out about it through the proper channels.
Right, definitely.
No.
Okay, anything else? We ready to go into closed session? Yes, sir. Make a motion to go into closed session?
You ready for a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we go into closed session on items 3, 4, and 5.
Second.
Second.
He already seconded the motion.
Okay.
No matter, they're giving
We
us
got
a
it,
take,
okay.
Mr. Take that.
Okay.
From Willard.
Okay. Closed session.